right, one of my favorite things to do is to put the thinking cap on, put the mock draft hat on, put up the big board, and figure out who the Dolphins are drafting in the upcoming 2024 NFL Draft. And I know Chris Grier is a big fan of this show, and the rest of the Dolphins front office are. They're probably watching and diligently taking notes, as they should be, because I'm about to spew some wisdom and let them know who they should be picking and who can help the Miami Dolphins take the next step in the upcoming season. So, as we always do, we start with the Dolphins draft capital for the upcoming 2024 NFL Draft. And barring any kind of trade or any funny business, here's where the Dolphins stand. First time in 3 years, the Dolphins have a first-round pick. Great place to start, huh? 21st overall, jump to the second round, picking 23rd in that round for the 55th overall pick. And no pick in round 3. Thanks a lot, Sean Payton, and the tampering allegation and violation from this team. So no pick in round 3, no pick in round 4 per that Bradley Chubb trade. Back on the board in round 5, 2 and 6, 1 and 7 for a total of 6 picks. So get out your notebook and take some notes. And as always, when the Miami Dolphins and the rest of the organization get ready to pull out their big board and fill out their draft, we'll have you covered from every single angle. That's why you subscribe for all of your Dolphins draft coverage. Subscribe to the channel as we continue to build and build. You don't want to miss anything like today's mock draft. So here we go. Part of an important mock draft is identifying positions of need. I think the Dolphins have plenty of those, starting up front with the offensive line. I think the linebacker and edge rushing position is a huge position of need for the Miami Dolphins, especially when you consider the fact that Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Andrew Van Ginkel all ended the season injured last year, and Andrew Van Ginkel, a pending free agent, Bradley Chubb, torn ACL, Jalen Phillips, blown out Achilles. So, edge rusher, obviously very important. We talked about Jerome Baker yesterday. He might not be back with the club as he's a free agent. So, linebacker and edge on the defensive side of things, very, very important. The wide receiver room could use some depth because over 60% of the production from the wide receiver room was done by Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. I'm not pointing out the obvious there because we all kind of know that Tua likes those two receivers, and in order to really take the next step on the offensive side of things, you got to add some depth to the wide receiver room. And depending on what happens in free agency, that defensive line position group could use some boosting as well if Christian Wilkins does not re-sign. And last but certainly not least, depending on what happens with Xavier Howard, you'd like to see the cornerback room improve. That said, there's also the big giant question mark around Cam Smith as he didn't play his rookie season. So buckle up, dial it in, and let's get going with our round 1 pick, Jake Riepma's Mock Draft 1.0. And with the 21st overall pick in round 1, the Miami Dolphins select Laiatu Latu, linebacker, edge rusher out of UCLA, the reigning Naismith Player of the Year in college football. He's been an absolute menace for opposing defenses. A lot of his draft profile talked about him being the most capable pass rusher in this draft, and also the versatility to be able to play linebacker. Now, like any draft prospect, there's some areas to improve, such as maybe his ability to take on blockers, but he's regarded as the most dominant pass rusher in this draft, and as I mentioned, the Lombardi Award winner in 2023. Now, his projection, I've seen it as high as the top 10. I've also seen kind of the middle rounds, but in this instance, again, using the Pro Football Focus simulator that realistically takes into account what could happen with tons of different possible outcomes, when I did my draft simulation, Laiatu Latu was there at 21, and I think if the Dolphins can get him at 21, that would be a steal. He's drawn some player comparisons and pro comps to DeMarcus Lawrence. So my goodness, if the Dolphins can get him with 21, I think that fits the need, and it also adds a dynamic pass rusher that can change the game and ultimately be a day 1 starter. So get out your red pen and first round pick in the books. Let me know what you think. Grade the pick for me, A, B, C, D, or F. What do you give this grade If the Dolphins go with Laiatu Latu out of UCLA, the linebacker and edge rusher that is a dynamic pass rusher and reigning Lombardi Award winner in college football. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about our second round pick and continue to work through our mock draft here on Dolphins Today. But first, I want to give a huge shout out to today's presenting sponsor, the only ticketing app you'll ever need because it's the best. And I'm talking live events, I'm talking concerts, I'm talking football, basketball, baseball seasons coming up. Whatever it is, Game Time provides the lowest price for all of your ticketing needs, and that is a guarantee, my friends. Take the stress out of buying tickets. And oh, yeah, that's right. New customers get $20 off when you download the app and create an account using that promo code FINSCHAT. Now, don't worry. We put the quote in the comments and description of today's video. It's promo code FINSCHAT. And don't forget about the big game coming up. If you happen to be going there, Game Time is the only app you'll need. Use that promo code VEGAS100. New and existing customers get $100 off a ticket to the big game using that promo code Vegas100. $100 is $100, man. Use that in Vegas, maybe at the craps table, maybe at the blackjack table. Either way, $100 is still $100. Use that promo code Vegas100. So take the stress out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app. Terms do apply. Use that promo code FINSCHAT. If you're a new customer or new and existing customers, use that promo code Vegas100 for tickets to the big game. All right, now, the Dolphins are on the clock in the second round. You start to think, okay, you went linebacker, edge rusher in the first round. You went defense in the first round. Who do you want to go in the second round? And based on his Senior Bowl, I love Christian Haynes out of UConn. He's a guard, and at that pick number 53, he's regarded as one of the top linemen in this draft, and based on what he did in the Senior Bowl, if you can get him in the second round, that would be a steal, because you talk about how good he was as a player for UConn. Really, really impressive. And again, he was on my Senior Bowl draft targets that we talked about earlier, and what a tremendous job he did in the Senior Bowl. Christian Haynes could add a need to the offensive line. He's regarded as a very athletic lineman, which I like in Mike McDaniel and Frank Smith's system offensively. And in 2023, he only allowed 1 sack. So, again, if he's available in the second round, I think you snag him without hesitation. 1, he's a great player. 2, he fits the need of the offensive line, depending on what happens with Connor Williams and Rob Hunt in the offensive line. We know there are some potential holes in the offensive line, so you look at what Christian Haynes could add as far as a value right away, and maybe he's Connor Williams' replacement, maybe he's Rob Hunt's replacement, or maybe he's a guy that you throw in to the rotation, because this is a Dolphins offensive line that started 12 different rotations in the regular season in this past year. So obviously some injury concerns with the Dolphins offensive line, and Christian Haynes could be a guy to really help. So make sure you remember that name, Christian Haynes, and let me know what you think. Do you like the pick of Christian Haynes? Type Y for yes or N for no. Again, UConn not really a power in terms of a college football program, but Christian Haynes impressed a lot of people with his ability at the Senior Bowl. Now, luckily, we use Pro Football Focus as a simulator, and they give you a grade. So my grades this morning, and I promise you these are accurate, the Laiatu Latu pick, Pro Football Focus gave me an A- for that pick, and Christian Haynes, same thing. So we're off to a rip-roaring good start. A-is across the board in our first 2 picks, and that's coming from an unbiased source in Pro Football Focus. So if you haven't yet used the simulator, this is how it works. I get an A-, but you know what? I'm still more curious what you think of the picks. Now, we know there's no pick in round 3 or 4, so jump all the way down to round 5 for the Miami Dolphins. That's where Theo Johnson comes off the board with pick number 158, the tight end out of Penn State. He had 7 touchdowns in 2023, and this is a tight end class that there are a lot of impact players in the tight end class. You look at, obviously, at the very top, Brock Bowers out of Georgia, projected to be certainly a first-round pick, but perhaps even a top 10 pick. Guys like Jared Wiley and Eric All out of Iowa, he was originally with Michigan, Eric All that is, transferred to Iowa. They might fall a little bit lower, but Theo Johnson, if he's available in that 5th round, I think you go ahead and snag him, especially when you consider his overall big board. Yes, he's a big boy too, but his overall big board ranking is right below that 158 mark. So if you're able to snag him in the 5th round, that'd be a huge, huge win for the Miami Dolphins. So with that said, the Dolphins in my mock draft have addressed the linebacker position, offensive line, and tight end. And now we jump ahead to the 6th round already. That's where Marcus Harris comes off the board with pick number 186, defensive lineman out of Auburn. And when you look at Marcus Harris's production, I think there's a lot to be excited about, but there's also reasons why he's projected to fall all the way to the 6th round. And that's not to say he can't help the team right away as a 6th round pick. After all, he is first team All SEC, or he was first team All SEC this past year. And he has a lot of positive characteristics about his draft status, such as his ability of playing multiple defensive line alignments, also the ability to get pressure on the quarterback, and at times, sometimes scouts would say he gets a little lost in run block or in run defense, so that'd be an area he needs to improve on. And check out the bottom line there. His weakness, also part of his draft profile, lacks functional arm length to lock out blockers at the point of attack, and some draft stocks have said he's a little bit undersized as well. So Marcus Harris, not necessarily a pick that's going to move the needle, but again, this is what Pro Football Focus is giving me on my grades for my mock draft. They gave Theo Johnson, the tight end out of Penn State, a B+, and Marcus Harris in the 6th round, a B. So let me know what you think. Grade my first mock draft, because like I said, for time's sake, we're going to go with the first 4 picks. We'll do a full mock draft at some point in the offseason, but a little bit at a time, right? Piece by piece. I don't want to give you everything right at once. Scale it for me in the comments. Grade my mock draft. Give me 1 through 10. 10 if you loved it, 1 if you hated it. Let me know either way, because I love getting your feedback. And that, my friends, is the first edition, first of many mock drafts for the Miami Dolphins offseason. We'll do it again, but right now I need your comments on my mock draft. Scale it for me 1 through 10 in the comments. And until next time, that's been our Miami Dolphins mock draft.